My name is Daphne. I am 24 years old. Since my mother died, life turned into a hollow space inside our house where sound and meaning slowly drained away. My father grew stranger in her absence. He spoke little, shared no emotions, and never talked about the past. We lived in a small suburb in the eastern United States where trees choked the sky and people avoided looking each other in the eyes. Even during the day, the streets felt grey. And at night, the only comforting thing was the glow of the streetlights. Across from us stood an old, large, two-story house. The man who lived there was Reverend, someone who had once served in the church and was considered respectable by the neighborhood. His daughter Savannah and I went to the same high school. She was my closest friend. I told her everything I could never say to anyone else. After my mother died, I withdrew into myself. Savannah came by a few times, waited at the door, sent messages. When I did not respond, our connection quietly broke. Then one day Savannah's messages stopped. No sound, no trace, as if she had not just turned off her phone, but erased herself. At first, I did not push it. I told myself that sometimes people get hurt and it takes time for things to fall back into place. But days passed, then weeks. One evening, I called her again. The phone rang. It was answered, "Savannah." I said, from the other end came nothing. That nothing was not an ordinary silence. It felt like a damp, breath-filled void pouring into my ear. I sensed someone had answered the phone, was listening to me, and was holding their breath. Then the line went dead. I called again. The message said the number could not be reached. That night I sat by my window with a cup of coffee. Outside, the wind rubbed the tree branches against each other. Savannah's house was completely dark. Not a single light. It was not just dark. It was the kind of darkness that felt like something was inside but did not want the lights. Turned on close to midnight, I saw a flashlight moving in the yard. The light was not wandering randomly. It was aimed deliberately at the ground, the bushes, the base of the walls. I saw the silhouette of a man moving with his head lowered, stopping occasionally, then speeding up. The garden gate opened. The man went inside. Lights turned on, only on the lower floor. 15 minutes later, the lights went out. The man left and dissolved into the darkness. The next day, I could not stop myself. Around noon, I walked over to Savannah's house. Just as I was about to knock, the door opened on its own. Reverend stood there. He did not look tired. He was not angry either. It was something worse. His face carried the urge to hide something. "Is Savannah home?" I asked. "I have not been able to reach her for days." "She went out of town," he said. "Where?" "To visit a relative." "Why is her phone turned off?" For a brief moment, his shoulders tensed. "I do not know. Is there someone I can contact?" "A number." He did not look me in the eyes. "I have work to do," he said. Then he shut the door hard in my face. As I walked out through the garden gate, I noticed a metallic glint on the ground. I bent down. A thin chain, broken. A small stone attached to it. Savannah's necklace, the one she never took off. I put it in my pocket. In that moment, an unwanted thought settled inside me. If I found this, then Savannah did not leave that garden by choice. 2 weeks later, the neighborhood stopped being quiet for the first time. In the early evening, a police car entered the street without sirens and stopped in front of Savannah's house. Then an ambulance arrived. Neighbors lined the sidewalk. Whispers, short sentences, hands clutching phones. I ran over too. The police had cordoned off the entrance. From inside, I heard someone say, "My God." Then a stretcher was brought out. Reverend was dead. The official record said suicide. When my father came home, I told him the news. He looked at me the way someone looks at a television, blank and detached. That man was capable of anything, he said. So he finally destroyed himself. Angrily, I asked why he spoke, as if the man deserved it. My father hardened for the first time. "My daughter, some people are very bad people. You would not even want to speak their name," he said. I did not ask why. Since my mother's death, I had learned one thing. My father built walls around certain subjects. I did not know what was behind those walls, but I could feel that getting close would hurt. Then the strange things began. One evening, while walking home from work, I heard footsteps behind me. I turned around. No one was there. I walked on. The sound came again, closer this time. The third time, something seemed to whisper into my ear. "You saw me." I turned again. Still no one. I ran home, locked the door, went into the kitchen, prepared something to eat, and sat at the table. My phone rang. On the screen was Savannah. My blood ran cold. My hands shaking, I answered. "Hello," I said. "Savannah, is that you?" Silence, then a rasping sound, as if forced out from deep in a throat. "Daphne, are you okay? Where are you?" The voice dragged the words out with effort. "Help me." Then a scream erupted. It did not sound human, more like something trying and failing to imitate a human voice. The phone slipped from my hand. I ran to the window. Savannah's house was dark. No movement. I picked up the phone and checked the call log. There was no record of any call, as if the phone had never rung. I returned to the table. I had lost my appetite and was terrified. When I looked at my plate, the food was gone. I had not taken a single bite. My throat tightened. I picked up the plate. At the bottom, in the oil, I saw thin black lines wriggling. When I looked closer, my stomach turned. Small, wet, curling larvae. I threw the plate into the sink and washed my hands. Nausea hit me hard. I started vomiting. What came out was not normal. It felt like mud and string-like things pouring out of me. I could not breathe. Tears streamed from my eyes. For a moment, I looked in the mirror and did not recognize myself. My face was pale, my lips purple. There was a knock at the door. My father, I thought. Finally, I opened the door. It was my father, but his face was blank. His eyes were not looking at me, but over my shoulder. He walked inside without a word and went straight to the bedroom, shutting the door hard. "Dad." I called, no answer. A tightness formed in my chest. I approached the door. Are you okay? Still no response. I cracked the door open and turned on the light. The room was empty, the bed untouched, the closet closed, the window locked. There was no sign that my father had ever been there. Then the doorbell rang again. I ran and opened it. My father stood there again, this time with his normal face. "Hi," he said. "Why are you looking at me like that?" My tongue went numb. "You were just here." "No, my daughter." "I just arrived," he said. My eyes dropped to his feet. No socks. His soles and ankles were covered in mud, as if he had just stepped on freshly dug earth. While I stared in shock, my father went into the kitchen. He stood at the counter, doing something, but it was not cooking. There was the sound of metal scraping against metal. A knife, a stone, something like that. And he was murmuring, something my father never did. "Dad, are you okay?" I asked without turning. He said, "I am fine." The doorbell rang once more, without turning around. In the same tone, he said, "Go see." I opened the door. The hallway was empty. Outside was pitch black. I turned back to the kitchen door. "There is no one," I said. My father kept murmuring, "Dad." I called. That was when he turned around. His eyes were not normal. The house lights seemed to vanish inside them, as if there were hollows where his eyes should be. In his hand was a knife. On the blade was something like blood, red, fresh. He walked toward me quickly. He grabbed my throat with one hand. My feet lifted off the ground. I slammed into the wall. I could not breathe. The knife pressed against my chest. As my vision began to darken, I heard another voice inside the house. My father's voice, but it came from the entrance, not the kitchen. "My daughter, are you home?" In that instant, the hand on my throat vanished. The knife disappeared. The thing I thought was my father dissolved into the air. My real father appeared in the kitchen doorway. When he saw me on the floor, collapsed in the corner, he rushed to me. "What happened to you?" he asked. "Your neck is red." I could not speak. I only cried. He tried to calm me down and asked again what had happened. I told him everything. I saw real fear in his eyes. Not fear of what I described, but fear that my mind was breaking. "It will pass," he said. "Everything will pass." The next day, a light rain was falling. My father left early in the morning. I stayed home alone, listening to the silence as if I were trying to hear sounds coming from inside the walls. I stepped outside to breathe. Without realizing it, I found myself standing in front of Savannah's house. A for sale sign had been placed there just a few days earlier. I was surprised. How could it have been sold so quickly when so little time had passed since everything happened? Just as I was about to turn back, the door opened. A woman in her 30s stepped out, followed by a man. The woman noticed me. "Hello," she said. "Were you looking for someone?" "Well, this used to be my friend's house," I said. "Did you just move in?" The woman smiled. "Yes, I'm Megan. I wanted to see the house, to know if anything inside had changed. Megan invited me in." The house felt as cold inside as it looked from the outside. The furniture was different, but the smell was the same. Dampness, old wood, and a metallic scent. Megan went into the kitchen. Without thinking, I headed upstairs. To Savannah's room. The moment I stepped inside, my throat tightened. It felt as if someone had been standing there and had just left. The air was heavy. The curtains were drawn. For a moment, I heard something like a breath close to my ear. "Does this room look familiar?" she said with a smile. We sat and talked. I could not hold it in anymore and told Megan about Savannah and Reverend's suicide. Megan's face grew serious. "The person who sold us the house was a woman," she said. "Through a lawyer. Her name is Nora. Do you have her number?" I asked. Megan gave it to me from her phone. As I was about to leave, Megan spoke in a whisper. "I feel uneasy here." "New house syndrome," I said. "No," she replied. "Last night, I could not sleep. A man was standing in the garden. He did not move. Then the curtains started moving on their own. My husband said it was the wind. But the wind does not pull curtains inward, does it? Something inside me broke, because I had experienced similar things. Still, I stayed silent so I would not scare Megan. That evening, my father did not come home again. Close to midnight, the doorbell rang. I opened the door. It was Megan. Her face was pale. She was trembling. "Someone entered my house," she said, "but the door was locked." I let her inside. When she calmed down, she told me what happened. Her husband had not come home yet. She had lain down in bed. When she heard a noise, she wanted to get up but could not. Her body was frozen. She heard sounds moving through the house. Someone running, knocking things over. Then footsteps stopped at the bedroom door. Whatever entered came close to the bed and crawled underneath it. Then there was a second sound. An angry male voice. It sounded like someone was shouting and searching through the house. It entered the room and bent down toward the space under the bed. At that moment, Megan heard a woman's scream. Close, muffled, as if her mouth was covered. "Don't," a voice moaned. "Please." Then the sound stopped. Megan was finally able to move. She turned on the light and saw muddy footprints on the carpet. She followed them. In the backyard, the tracks ended at one spot. The soil there was raised, as if freshly dug. When I heard this, my heart stuttered. I pulled Savannah's necklace out of my pocket. "I took this," I said. "I found it in their garden." Megan looked into my eyes. "Is that why? You are experiencing things too?" I could not answer, because the voice inside me was saying yes. We immediately called Nora's number. The phone was answered. "Hello," I said. "I am Savannah's close friend. We are looking for her everywhere. Reverend said she went out of town. Did Savannah come to you?" The woman's voice on the other end paused. Then she said one sentence that pinned me to the ground. "Savannah never came here." "What do you mean?" "I had that house sold because it was not a place anyone could live in," Nora said. "But I do not know where Savannah is either." Megan's eyes filled with tears. My stomach twisted again. At that moment, there was only one thing we could do. Go back to the house. Megan refused. I am not going into that house, she said. There is something there. I am scared too, I said, but I cannot leave Savannah there. When we reached Savannah's house, the garden gate was ajar, as if it had been waiting for us. The moment we stepped inside, a door slammed violently from within. The upstairs bedroom door. Megan screamed. I moved toward the stairs. The room was pitch black. The light switch did not work. I used my phone's flashlight. That was when I saw things on the walls. Scratches, circular shapes, overlapping symbols. I could not understand what they were, but they were not childish scribbles. They were too precise. Suddenly, the television in the living room turned on by itself. The screen filled with static. Then an image appeared, a black and white camera angle showing the garden. And in the garden, something was digging the soil. The image burst. The television screen cracked and fell to the floor. Kitchen cabinets began opening and closing on their own. Plates flew. A glass shattered at Megan's feet. We ran to the door. We pushed. It would not open. It felt as if someone was holding it from the inside, not the outside. Megan started crying. I clung to the door handle. I heard a whisper right next to my ear. Give the necklace back. That was when I understood. This house was not just a place hiding Savannah's disappearance. This house was protecting what it hid. The door suddenly opened and we ran outside. We tried to call the police, but Megan's phone had no signal. Mine said no service as well. Even though the street normally had reception, we were desperate. We ran to the small church in town. The door was closed. No lights inside. We knocked on the door of a nearby house. An elderly man answered. Pastor Reed. He listened to us. His face darkened. This house, he said, has a strange past. But what you are describing is no longer just strange. Pastor Reed took a bag and called a young man to join us. His name was Cole. We knew he volunteered at the church, but that day we understood his role was different. We returned to Savannah's house. The moment Pastor Reed stepped through the garden gate, he stopped. He looked at the ground, took a small bottle from his bag, and poured a few drops onto the soil. His lips moved, like a prayer, but more like a ritual. He headed toward the backyard. Here, he said. The soil was raised, as if freshly dug. Cole took a shovel and began digging. The soil was wet. The rain had softened it. The first thing that appeared was a piece of fabric, then hair, then a hand. I wanted to scream, but no sound came out, because when I saw the face, my mind fought to say, "This is not real, Savannah." Her face was pale, her lips purple, dirt under her fingernails. A cloth was stuffed in her mouth, covered with scribbled symbols that were hard to read. Around her neck, marks from a chain, as if something had not only killed her, but turned her into a secret that had to remain silent. Pastor Reed carefully removed the cloth. Under his breath, he said, "Whoever did this was not just human." Then he paused. "It is too late," he said quietly, "but There is still something left inside this house. At that moment, a loud crash erupted from inside, as if every door slammed at once. The windows shook. The leaves on the trees rustled without any wind. Then the whispering began. Not from one place, from everywhere. Give it back. I took the necklace from my pocket and handed it to Pastor Reed. This, I said, is this because of me? Pastor Reed took the necklace and closed his eyes. This is a bond, he said. It formed a connection. When you took it, it began speaking to you. Cole stepped back. Megan cried. Pastor Reed placed the necklace at the edge of the pit. Then he pulled out something else, a rusty metal box. He had found it beneath the soil. Inside the box was a notebook. The pages were damp, but some were still readable. Dates, names, symbols. Pastor Reed lifted his head. Reverend Caldwell was not a man of the church, he said. Under the cover of faith, he served something else. According to what was written, his daughter had committed a sin and become pregnant. To cleanse her, he performed rituals and buried her here, along with the child she carried. Now I will break this, he said, and her spirit will find peace. After several rituals, the sounds inside the house rose, and for a brief moment, Savannah's chest moved. The pastor said her soul was finally free. This time, the signal returned. We called the police. It was as if the house allowed the phones to work once it got the exposure it wanted. The crime scene, the investigation, the ambulance. Everything blurred together. That night, when I returned home, my father came in through the door. Where were you? I asked. You did not answer your phone. My father looked at me. I was at work, he said. Then he looked straight into my eyes. Are you okay? He asked. I hugged him. Because sometimes, when fear chases you, you cling to trust. Because now I knew Savannah's house was not just a crime scene. It had been her release. I felt lighter, as if a weight had been lifted from me. She is still my closest friend. I visit her grave often and talk to her. Sometimes she visits me in my dreams, because true friendships never die. Thank you for listening to this story until the very end. If this video affected you, don't forget to support the channel by liking it. For more dark and realistic stories like this, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. See you in the next story.